A man in his late 60s sat in my emergency room one winter night, rubbing his feet through his socks, telling me they were always cold and a little numb. He figured it was just his age. It wasn't. It was blood barely reaching his feet, and a warning sign he'd been brushing off for 2 years. If your feet go cold, tingle, or your calves ache when you walk, this is about you. Because poor circulation in the legs is one of the quiet reasons older adults lose their footing, their confidence, and eventually their independence. I'll show you the drinks that genuinely help, the ones that do almost nothing, and the one warning sign you should never write off as normal aging. I've spent years in emergency medicine, and I'll tell you what worries me. It's not the dramatic emergencies. It's how often people arrive late, after something quiet has been building for years, because every early signal got explained away as getting older. Cold feet, heavy legs, a cramp in the calf that shows up on a walk and eases when you stop. Small things, easy to ignore, and that's exactly the problem. So let me be honest with you up front, because a lot of videos on this topic are not. No drink reverses artery damage in a few hours. Nothing you pour into a glass unclogs a blood vessel by tomorrow morning. If someone promises you that, they're selling something. But here's what is true, and what real science actually supports. A handful of everyday drinks give your body the raw material it needs to help your blood vessels relax and open a little wider, and a couple of them have genuinely good evidence behind them. The rest are mostly hype. My job today is to sort them for you, honestly, from the ones that barely move the needle to the 2 that are actually worth your money and your kitchen counter space. And I'll show you the single mistake that quietly cancels the whole thing out, even if you're drinking the right one. Let's start with what's actually happening inside your legs, because once you understand the mechanism, the ranking makes sense on its own. Picture your arteries as garden hoses running from your heart down to your toes. A healthy hose has a smooth, slick inner lining. That lining isn't just a passive wall, it's an active surface that releases a signal telling the vessel to relax and widen so blood can flow through easily. That signal is a gas called nitric oxide. Think of it as the switch that tells the hose walls to loosen their grip. When you're young, that switch works constantly. As you age, and especially if you've got high blood pressure or high blood sugar, your body makes less of it, and the hose stays tighter than it should. Blood has to push harder to reach your feet. That's when they get cold. That's when they tingle. That's when your legs feel heavy on the stairs. And here's something worth sitting with because it reframes this whole topic. That same slick lining runs through every artery you have, not just the ones in your legs. It's the same lining that feeds your heart, your brain, and yes, everything else downstream. So when we talk about helping your vessels relax and open, your legs are just the part you can feel. You're really tending to the plumbing of your entire body. The legs are simply the early warning light because they're the farthest outpost from the pump, so they usually complain first. Now here's where the drinks come in, and here's the part most people get wrong. Certain vegetables are loaded with natural compounds called dietary nitrates. Not nitrites from processed meat, which are a different conversation. These are the plant nitrates in leafy greens and beets. Your body has a clever, roundabout way of turning them into that same nitric oxide switch. And the first step happens somewhere you'd never guess. Your mouth. Here's the machinery. Think of it as a 2-shift factory. The first shift is the bacteria living on the back of your tongue. When you eat or drink those nitrates, those bacteria do the first conversion, turning nitrate into a compound called nitrite. Then the second shift takes over. Your stomach acid and your body finish the job, turning that nitrite into nitric oxide, the signal that relaxes your vessels. 2 shifts. Both have to run for the line to produce anything. And this is the mistake I promised you. Antibacterial mouthwash wipes out the first shift. In one well-known study published in the American Heart Association's own journal Hypertension, people who drank beetroot juice saw their blood pressure drop for hours afterward. Real, measurable effect. But when those same people used an antibacterial mouthwash, that drop mostly vanished. Why? Because the mouthwash killed the tongue bacteria that run the first shift. No first shift, no conversion, no benefit. So if you're rinsing with a strong antiseptic mouthwash right after your beet juice, you may be paying for the drink and throwing away the result. Let the bacteria do their job. That one insight is worth more than half the drinks on this list. Now, before we rank anything, I need to slow down on that warning sign, because this is the part I'd want someone to send to their own father. Most people treat cold, numb feet as a comfort problem. Socks, a warmer room, done. And often that's all it is. But sometimes it's the first quiet signal of something with an actual name. Peripheral artery disease. That's narrowing of the arteries in the legs, and according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, it affects millions of American adults over 40, and a large share of them don't know they have it. Here's the reversal that matters. It rarely announces itself with pain first. The classic early clue isn't a dramatic symptom. It's this. Your calf, thigh, or buttock cramps or aches when you walk a certain distance, and the ache reliably goes away when you stop and rest. Doctors call it intermittent claudication. It's your muscles asking for more blood than your narrowed arteries can deliver, and getting it only when they're at rest. And let me name the things that quietly speed this up, because knowing them hands you the biggest levers. High blood pressure, high blood sugar, and above all, smoking. If you smoke, I'll say this plainly and without a lecture, nothing on this entire list of drinks comes close to the damage cigarettes do to the small vessels in your legs, and nothing helps your circulation as much as stopping. Every cigarette tightens those vessels and chews up the very nitric oxide we've been talking about. If you take one action from this video and you're a smoker, it's that one. Everything else is a supporting cast. So here's your self-check, and it takes no equipment. Notice whether your legs ache at a predictable distance. To the mailbox. Halfway down the block. Then eases when you stand still. Notice whether one foot is colder or paler than the other. Look at your feet in good light for any sore or cut that isn't healing, especially if you have diabetes, because poor blood flow means wounds heal slowly and quietly turn dangerous. And press on a toenail until it goes white, then let go. The color should rush back within a second or two. If it's sluggish, that's worth mentioning. Now let me be clear about what to do with all that, because I never want to leave you worried without a next step. If your feet are just a little cool and everything else is normal, you monitor, and you can start with the drinks we're about to cover. If you've got that reliable walking cramp, or one leg that's noticeably colder, write down when it happens and book a routine appointment with your primary care doctor. Ask them specifically about your circulation. There's a simple, painless test they can do in the office, comparing the blood pressure at your ankle to the pressure in your arm, called an ankle brachial index, and it takes minutes. If you develop a sore on your foot that won't heal, or signs of infection like redness, swelling, and warmth, that's an urgent care or same-day appointment, not a wait and see. And here is the one that saves legs. If a leg suddenly becomes cold, pale, numb, and painful all at once, that can mean an artery has abruptly blocked. That is a call 911 emergency. Do not drive yourself, do not wait until morning. Every hour counts for saving that limb. Okay, deep breath. For the vast majority of you, we're in the monitor and improve zone, and that's exactly where these drinks earn their place. So let's rank them, honestly, from the ones that barely help to the ones I actually keep in my own kitchen. Down at the bottom is plain water, and I want to be fair, you genuinely need it. When you're low on fluids, your blood gets thicker and moves more sluggishly. So staying hydrated keeps things flowing at baseline. But water contains no nitrates. It doesn't flip the nitric oxide switch. It keeps the machine from seizing up. It doesn't tune it. So drink your water. Just don't expect it to fix your circulation on its own. It's the floor, not the ceiling. A step up is green tea. It gets endless hype, and it does contain compounds called catechins that are modestly good for the lining of your vessels. But two honest caveats. The effect is small and slow. It works over weeks and months of steady drinking, not in an afternoon. And the caffeine can actually tighten vessels in some sensitive people, which works against you. Green tea is a fine drink with real benefits for other reasons. For leg circulation specifically, it's a supporting player, not a starter. Next, two of the juices people love, tart cherry juice and pomegranate juice. Both contain genuine antioxidants. The compounds in cherry help calm inflammation in vessel walls, and pomegranate has substances that may help protect the nitric oxide you do make from breaking down too fast. That's real. But here's the catch, and it's the same catch for both. They are loaded with sugar, often around 30 grams in a single cup, which is a real problem when, let's be honest, a large number of adults over 60 are already managing blood sugar or heading that way. And they're expensive. If you love them, the smart move is a small pour, well diluted with water, and only alongside food or in the morning to blunt the sugar spike. Useful on the margins, not the engine. Now we climb into the tier that actually starts to matter. Real, unsweetened cocoa is a legitimate circulation helper. Cocoa is rich in compounds called flavonols, and good studies show they help the vessel lining produce more nitric oxide and improve blood flow. The trick is that this has almost nothing to do with a packet of sugary hot chocolate. You want plain, unsweetened cocoa powder, stirred into warm milk or water, sweetened if you need it, with a pinch of stevia or monk fruit, so you're not undoing the benefit with sugar. A comforting evening drink that happens to help. I like it on the list. Then there's watermelon. Watermelon is rich in an amino acid called L-citrulline, which your body converts fairly directly into nitric oxide. There's decent research showing it can gently support blood pressure and vessel function. The honest downside is practical. Good, fresh watermelon juice is really a summer thing, and it takes a lot of fruit to make a glass. When it's in season, it's a genuinely pleasant way to help your vessels. Out of season, don't force it. Higher still and criminally underrated is hibiscus tea. This is the tart, cranberry-colored tea, and it has actual clinical trials behind it showing it can bring blood pressure down by a few points with regular drinking. For circulation, that lining relaxing effect is exactly what you want, and it costs almost nothing. A couple of tea bags steeped in hot water for 10 minutes, once or twice a day. One caution, and it's the flip side of the benefit. Because hibiscus genuinely lowers blood pressure, if you're already on blood pressure medication, mention it to your doctor before you start drinking it every day, so your pressure doesn't drop too low. And now, the top of the mountain. The two that actually win are green nitrate powerhouses and the beet. Let me take them in turn. Celery, and even more so leafy greens like arugula, are among the richest natural sources of dietary nitrate on the planet. Pound for pound, a couple of cups of arugula carry a serious nitrate load, more than most vegetables you can name. Blend a big handful of arugula into a smoothie with some berries and unsweetened milk to soften the peppery bite, and you've made yourself a nitrate delivery system your vessels can actually use. The research on nitrate-rich greens and blood flow is some of the strongest in this whole field. If you don't want a smoothie, simply eating a big daily salad of dark leafy greens does much of the same work. This is the least glamorous item on the list and one of the most effective. But the single most studied, most practical drink for this exact purpose is beetroot juice. Beets are packed with dietary nitrate in a form your body converts efficiently, and the research is genuinely solid. This is the drink behind that hypertension study I mentioned, and dozens more. Realistically, what the good studies show is a modest but real drop in blood pressure, on the order of a few points, and measurable improvements in how well your vessels open, with the effect peaking a couple of hours after you drink it and tapering over the day. Not a miracle. A real, repeatable nudge in the right direction from a glass that costs a few dollars. Here's how to actually use the two winners, because the details decide whether you get anything. Aim for a small glass of pure beetroot juice, or that arugula smoothie, ideally in the first part of the day. Buy beet juice with nothing added but beets, or juice 4 medium beets yourself if you've got a juicer. Give it a couple of hours to work, since that's when the effect peaks. And remember the mouthwash rule. Don't wipe out your tongue bacteria with a strong antiseptic rinse right around the time you're relying on those nitrates. 2 of these on most days, greens and beets. do more for your circulation than any exotic supplement I can think of. Now, before the cautions, there's one thing that beats every drink on this list, and it's free. The drinks give your body the raw material, but raw material still has to get pushed through. And here's a fact of anatomy most people never learn. The muscles in your calf are effectively your second heart. Every time you contract them, they squeeze the deep veins in your legs and physically pump blood back up toward your chest, working against gravity all day long. When you sit for hours, that second pump goes quiet, and blood pools in your lower legs no matter what you drank that morning. So pair the nitrates with movement, and you multiply the effect. It doesn't take a gym, a 10-minute walk after meals, standing up and doing 10 slow calf raises, up on your toes and down, every time you get off the couch. A short walk to the mailbox and back on purpose. If the drinks are the fuel, your calf muscles are the pump, and a pump that never runs is worth nothing. I'd rather you drank plain water and walked every hour than drank the perfect beet juice and sat still all day. I saw this play out with a retired teacher, a woman in her 70s who came in for something unrelated. When I checked her feet, one had a small sore near the heel she hadn't noticed, because it didn't hurt, because the nerves and blood supply were both struggling. In someone with good circulation, that heals in days. In her, it had been quietly widening for weeks. We caught it in time, but the lesson stuck with me. When blood flow is poor, your feet stop warning you the normal way, so you have to look on purpose, which is exactly why the foot check I gave you matters more than any drink. Now, a few honest cautions, because who you are changes the advice. If you have a history of kidney stones, slow down here. Beets are high in a compound called oxalate, and so is spinach, and oxalate is a building block of the most common kidney stones. Interestingly, arugula is much lower in oxalate than spinach, so it's often the smarter green for stone formers. But either way, check with your doctor before you go heavy on beet juice. If you take blood pressure medication or a nitrate medication for your heart, please talk to your doctor before making beets or hibiscus a daily habit, because stacking two things that lower blood pressure can drop it too far and leave you lightheaded, which, at 60 plus, is its own fall risk. And here's one that surprises people harmlessly. Beets can turn your urine or stool a pinkish red. It's called beeturia. It happens to some people and not others, and it is completely harmless. Don't panic if you see it. I know what some of you are thinking. I've tried beet juice, nothing happened. Two likely reasons. 1. The mouthwash mistake, or a course of antibiotics, wiped out the first shift. 2. You were expecting a clogged artery to open up overnight, and that's not what this does. This is a small, steady nudge that adds up. Which brings me to the most important idea in this whole video. You do not need to do all of this, and you do not need to be perfect. 1 glass of beet juice a few mornings a week, or a daily bowl of greens, done consistently for a month, will do far more than an elaborate plan you abandon in a week. Small and repeated beats big and brief, every single time. So let me hand you the whole thing as one simple pattern you can carry out of here. If your feet are cold and heavy, don't just reach for thicker socks. First, ask the one question that actually matters. Do my legs cramp or ache at a predictable walking distance and ease when I rest? If yes, that's not aging. That's a conversation with your doctor and a simple ankle test. If it's just mild coolness, then feed your vessels the raw material they've been missing. The winners are leafy greens and beetroot juice, because they carry the nitrates your body turns into the signal that relaxes your arteries. Hibiscus tea and real cocoa help. The juices are minor and sugary. Water and green tea are the floor, not the fix. And whatever you drink, don't let strong mouthwash cancel it out. Here's your one small step, and it's genuinely small. Tomorrow morning, do 2 things. First, on your next walk, pay attention to your legs and notice whether they ache at a set distance and ease when you stop. Just notice. Write it down if they do. Second, add 1 nitrate-rich thing to your day. A small glass of pure beet juice or a real handful of dark leafy greens. That's it. Do that for the next couple of weeks and pay attention to how your legs feel on the stairs. You're not chasing a miracle. You're giving your body back a raw material it's been running short on. and you're finally reading a signal you used to ignore. Your legs carry you through your whole life. It's worth listening to what they're telling you, and it's worth starting tomorrow.